The functional requirement document, the FRD. If the BRD is the why and what, the FRD is how the system should behave. Is the bridge between business sponsors and technical architects. Today, we generate a complete FRD with Claude, plus the business rule registry, the data requirement, the non-functional requirement, and the traceability metrics that ties everything back to your BRD. Let's compare BRD with FRD. The boundary is critical. BRD captures why the project exists and what the business model at a high level. Stakeholder language sponsor approves. The FRD captures how the system should behave, detailed business rule, still business readable, but with enough specificity that a Salesforce architect can build from it. The FRD does not contain code. It does not yet contain Salesforce field name. Those come in technical design, which is different document for a different audience. Let's look at the standard FRD structure. There are 12 sections, similar as BRD but different content. Introduction and scope, system overview, functional requirement, business rules, data requirement, user interface requirement, integration requirement, reporting requirements, non-functional requirements, assumptions and dependencies, acceptance criteria, and appendices. The FR section is the heart. Each requirement gets its own ID, structure, and traceability link. The rest scaffolds around it. This is the master FRD generation prompt. This is denser than the BRD prompt. For every functional requirement, we want a unique ID, action-oriented title, 2 or 3 sentence description, business rule, logic written as if-then statements, data input and output, validation rules, edge case address, linked user story IDs, Moscow priority and dependency. We restrict scope to 6 only per Moscow, and we explicitly say use business term, no Salesforce field name. Those belong in technical design. So let's see this in action. I'm going to copy this particular prompt. Let's look at the sample requirement, which is generated by the Claude. Claude has numbered it by name FR014, pricing approval routing by discount tier, description in 2 sentences, business rule logic in clean if-then statement, 0 to 10% auto approve, 11 to 20% goes to sales manager, 21 to 30 goes to VP sales, over 30% requires VP sales plus CFO. All approvals complete with 48 hours. Edge cases addressed, approvers on PTO delegates to backup. Multi-level timeout escalate, 0 code modified after approval, and it get linked to the user stories. Now let's look at the next prompt, which is business rule registry prompt. Most BAs scatter business rule across the FRDs. Don't do that. Extract them into a centralized rule registry. 6 categories: validation, calculation, workflows, approval, sharing, notification. For each rule ID, like BR001, category, rule statement in if-then format, source FR, owner who approves, effective date. The output has to be a sortable table. This registry becomes the source of truth for any business rule conversation, and it's invaluable when stakeholders try to change a rule 6 months in. The next prompt is data requirement prompt. These prompts are often script or are done badly. Don't skip them. For each business entity, lead, account, opportunity code, we want 8 things. Entity purpose in business term, key attributes needed, required versus optional field, data sources, internal or external, data quality rules, retention requirement, PII flags with type, and master data ownership. Output one data sheet per entity. Critical rule, business term only, annual contract value, not annual revenue __ C. Technical mapping happens later. The next prompt is a non-functional requirement prompt. They are often vague and useless, like past performance is not a non-functional requirement. We force specificity across 6 dimensions: performance, page load targets, search response, bulk operation time, scalability, 500 concurrent user, data volume, throughput, security, authentication, authorization, audit logging, encryption, availability, uptime, SLA, maintenance windows, disaster recovery objectives, usability, mobile parity, WAG accessibility, browser support, and compliance. SOX because Tech Corp is public, GDPR if international, data residency, target metric and rationale for each. Before sending the FRD to architect, run a quality review. This prompt asks Claude to be a Salesforce solution architect doing a pre-design review. 6 checks: ambiguity, any requirement open to multiple interpretations, completeness, every BRD requirement translate to an FR, testability, can QA build test cases from this, visibility, achievable declaratively or does it need custom code, conflicts, any internal contradictions, traceability, every FR linked to a BRD requirement, severity and recommendation per issue. The next prompt is traceability metrics prompt. Is the document that makes auditor happy and SOX compliance possible. We ask Claude to link every layer, business requirement to functional requirement to user stories to acceptance criteria to test case. Spreadsheet ready table with columns for each. Highlight any orphan, a business requirement without a functional requirement, an FR without a story without a test. Orphans are where projects fail audits. Catch them early and fix them quietly. Let's look at the mistakes what people do while creating a functional requirement document. 7 mistakes that ruin FRDs, like mentioning Salesforce field name, premature technical commitment, skipping business rule extraction, rules become buried and unmanageable, vague NFR like fast performance, no traceability back to BRD, skipping edge cases, mixing FRD content with technical design, and not getting an architect review before sign off. Each of these costs you weeks somewhere downstream. Avoid all 7 and the FRD becomes one of your strongest deliverables. There are 6 action items. Save the master FRD prompt, business rule, registry prompt, NFR prompt, and traceability metrics prompt. Generate the FRD section for lead routing and run the architect quality review on it. Once you have produced one FRD with Claude, the second one takes half the time because you already know which part of the prompt need tuning for your specific context.